So my name is Diana. I am the director of Travel Avidly. And tonight you're here to learn more about our Morocco trip, which is in the spring. And it is a trip that I'm incredibly excited about. I'll be leading it, and I've been working together with our guide, and she's phenomenal. It's a small woman-owned company, and she's just fantastic. And so far, we've only had women interested in this trip. So there is a slight chance that we're going to sort of make it into kind of a women's trip, if it sort of starts to kind of fall out that way, which I think would be really exciting. I think would be a really, really neat opportunity for a group of women to do a trip like this, for sure. All right, so yes, as I mentioned, this is Morocco. I think the price for this trip is amazing. We've really been able to keep costs down because we don't go through any middle people. And so the cost is really, really great. And right now it does include air. We evaluate that every month if we can continue to keep the price the same and include air. So at least through the end of September, this does include your airfare to Morocco from, I think, which airport? I believe it's from New York City.
Yeah.
For this one. But I'm not 100%, but it's one or two major airports that's included. So before we get started about Morocco, it's not on here. A little bit about us. I wanted to tell you a little bit about us as a company. We focus on, let me go back to the Morocco page. We focus on small group tours, usually 8 to 15 people. Our average size is like 10 to 12. We focus a lot on helping people build community, build friendships. We don't want you to ever feel like you're 40 people on a bus. We have a max of like 15 people. Like I said, we keep the groups very small. That allows people to really create good friendships, create meaningful friendships and connections. We have a lot of solo travelers who do set up roommate situations. We offer pre-trip meetings ahead of the trip. We usually have 2 to 3 meetings leading up to the trip where we talk about the culture, the history. We learn a few words. We learn a lot about how to behave. What are the customs of the place where we're going? When we went to Japan, how do you behave in a temple? We want our travelers to feel very comfortable and to feel like they're equipped to show up, so that we're also not the ugly Americans. We're the informed, polite, respectful Americans. So we try to include that as well in those trip meetings. That's also a great time to meet other travelers, to get a feel for who else is coming along on the trip. And as I mentioned before, a really great way to find a potential roommate. So that can be really great. And then the last one of the biggest perks to me is that we do have a really great, we have a very flexible payment plan option. So you can put 15% down, and then you can just divide the payments over the next few months, as long as you're paid in full by 90 days before the trip. There are no fees, there's no interest, there's no service charges. It's exactly what you owe divided by the number of payments. We really want to make travel an option for as many people as possible. We want to make it easy and doable. So yes, now we can get started on Morocco. So we're going. It's an overnight flight to Casablanca. We will arrive usually in the early afternoon. And it's a pretty straightforward. Actually, we arrive in the late morning, right around 10 or 11 a.m. We'll meet our guide and our driver that we'll have for the entire tour. So we'll actually be able to, again, have a great relationship, get to know them, be able to ask questions, and feel really comfortable working with them. That first afternoon, we'll visit the Hassan II Mosque, and then we'll have a welcome dinner all together that evening. And here's some shots of Casablanca. Chefchaouen is our next stop the next day. After breakfast and checkout, we'll take a drive there. Interestingly enough, people don't know why this city is blue. I talked to our guide about it, and she was like, there's lots and lots of theories. There's lots of, sort of rumors or stories. They do require that buildings, when they're being constructed, that they do have certain shades of blue, that they have certain percentage of the buildings that are blue. The city understands that people come here, that this is part of what's created this image, is having all the buildings be blue, having this consistency, which reminds me a lot of Greece, because in Greece, there has to be a curve on every house that's built, and on most buildings. There has to be the sort of that traditional curve that you see in all of the Greek structures. And again, it's really because that's how people identify this place, and that's why all the churches, have are built in very similar fashions as well. But yeah, so they do that as well in Chefchaouen, which I thought was really interesting. It's a really beautiful village. It is known for their wool garments, their blankets, woven rugs. You can actually take the stairs up and get to the top of the mountain and be able to look down and have these really amazing views as well. So it will be a really great stop. We'll spend 2 days in Fez. So we'll travel to Fez and we'll have a free afternoon upon arrival. And so we'll have a chance to sort of walk around on our own, kind of split up. It's very safe. We'll have dinner together that evening, but we will have the afternoon free. And it can be just kind of a nice time to rest after we've done a whole lot those first couple of days. The next morning, we'll get up and we'll do a tour of Medina, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We'll also go to Madrasa Bu Inania, which is a restored theological college. It has very elaborate tiles and carvings and these massive brass entrance doors. The tanneries on the banks of the Oued Fez, we'll also see, and you can see that in the picture here. And it smells. There's a very strong smell here. It is not just decorative. This is where they're dyeing all of these hides, all different shades of browns and reds and tans, and they're tanning the leather. So it is a very, very distinctive smell that you will never, ever, ever forget. But also super cool to actually get to see this. I actually just went to a tannery in Scotland a few weeks ago, which was a much smaller affair, like one building, and they do all natural dyes, and there's no dyeing. They just tan the hides. But here, this is a massive experience and very unusual. But yeah, you don't soon forget this very sort of earthy, leathery smell. And then, yeah, we'll see other highlights of the city and then have dinner together that evening. And at the end of this, I don't have them mixed in like I normally do, but I have pictures of the accommodations where we'll be staying and the kinds of places that we'll be staying so that you'll feel, you'll have a good understanding of what to expect. Day 6, we'll head to Medelt. This is known for, as you can see from the photos, it's stunning natural landscapes, very traditional Amazigh architecture, and also really, really good food. And I'm a big foodie. Any tour you go on with me, we will have, really authentic dishes. We'll stop at those really cute little cafes, the cool places that are, off the beaten track, away from where other tourists go. I love to go to the family-owned places where you're really getting an authentic experience. And often, we sit and we get to visit with the owners. We get to know them. It's not just, we're not just popping in and out. So I loved and I know Jim is a foodie too, but I feel like I take it to a bit of an extreme. This is also, interestingly enough, the epicenter in Morocco for apple trees. And it's probably going to be your first time to experience what mirages feel like, in this part of the world. And so you'll see the distance for the Middle Atlas Mountains, those in the picture. You won't be able to see how far away they are, and you can sort of start to question your visibility and your ability to see. It's really, really a kind of a freaky experience if you haven't had it before. So then we're going to go to Metsuga. We'll stop in Efrain, which is a really bizarre town. It's super cool, but it's this French town from the 1930s. And they wanted to build it as if it was a town in the Alps, because obviously you're in Morocco. So you need a town that's, a lot more like the Alps than anything else in Morocco. And so there's the stores, the shops, everything, the flowers they've imported all of these trees and flowers and plants, and the structures, the buildings, the architecture, everything feels like you're in Switzerland. So it's really crazy. You will see the monkeys and in the markets of Azrou, which it's in one thing, they beg and you don't want to feed them, and you'll be reminded by your guide. But they do beg, but they're actually been made sort of unhealthy because people keep feeding them junk food and trash and all of that. And they are wild animals, even though they're very good at begging, and they make you think, that they're very sweet and all of that. And they won't hurt you, but just not to feed them is something we've been advised about. So then after we're done here, after we have lunch, we'll head to the desert. And this is going to be one of the highlights of the entire trip. And you'll see the pictures at the end of the tents where we'll be staying. And you talk about glamping to a whole other level. But this will be a really, really special evening where we're going to have music under a bonfire. We're going to have traditional Amazigh food. We're going to get to spend time talking with the musicians, talking with the people, just really kind of hanging out. And it will go late into the night. There's a bonfire. It's amazing. And it's one of the things that I'm most excited about. All of the tents are carpeted. There's beautiful, rugs. Everything is just, it's beautiful. It's incredible. And I think it's actually what made me want to create this entire trip it's like at the beginning, I was like, I have to stay in tents. We've got to hang out with some camels. Like, obviously, this is what we need to do when we're in Morocco. So our next day, we'll sleep in a little bit, and then we'll head to Dade's Valley, where we'll spend a couple of days there. This is nestled between the High Atlas Mountains and the Jebel Sagro range. So you've got, breathtaking views of both ranges. It's right in the middle. So we're going to stay here for 2 nights. And it really, really is different than anywhere else. You've got, the air is different. This valley is known for very dramatic rock formations, lush palm groves, and very traditional villages. So it's really beautiful. And also there's lots of trails for hiking and lots of, you can go bicycling. So it's a great place for that afternoon. We'll have some free time that afternoon, and it's an awesome opportunity to go. We have some guides set up if anyone wants to go on a longer hike. There'll be different levels of difficulty, so you can sort of pick what works best for you. Or you can just have a really leisurely walk through the almond and the fig trees. It's just really, really beautiful. So this will be kind of a choose your own adventure sort of afternoon. Then we're going to Rudent, which is known as Little Marrakech. And so this is a cool place because it does offer a blend of the modern and the traditional culture. It's surrounded by a red earth wall. It is a medieval city. It dates back to the 16th century. It's got vibrant souks, stunning riads, and really beautiful gardens. One of the coolest parts that I'm excited about is that we're going to get to visit the ancient Medina there, and also the argan oil women's cooperatives. So you'll have an opportunity to buy some really, really high quality argan oil from these women-owned businesses that they're working to support and improve. And so that's I love argan oil, and I think this will be really cool and a great souvenir, and useful as well. Another opportunity for this afternoon, you can go hiking, horseback riding, you can even go golfing if you want. So again, some time for people to kind of split up a little bit, do things that, that they would like to do. Asoria is a coastal town. This is kind of an art scene. It has the art scene. You've still got the walled city, but it's been pretty much taken over and revitalized by all of these artists of all different kinds. So you can also try kite surfing, horseback riding. The food is delicious. It's very relaxed. One of the cool things you can do is actually go to the harbor with some of the restaurants, and you actually pick out the fish that was just caught that day, and then take it. The restaurant will come and get it, and they'll go and they'll cook it for you the way that, usually some form of grilling. But you can get very, very fresh fish that was just caught, and you can actually pick it out yourself, which is a fun opportunity. Imlil is day 12. So this is a small village. We'll be in the High Atlas Mountains by this point. So you can actually see the snowtop peaks, the valleys, again, a lot of the traditional Amazigh architecture. Back to hiking, there's lots and lots of exploration that can be done. You can go horseback riding. It's really, really just, as you can tell from the photograph of the village, it's just beautiful. And again, the way that it's tucked in between, in this valley, between the mountains. And then at this point, still we are scheduled to go to Marrakech. They're expecting it to be travelable and safe by this point, by the spring. If not, then we'll make alternative plans. But basically, as soon as it's safe, as soon as things are repaired and the infrastructure is good and solid, they really want to invite tourists back as soon as possible. They're dependent on the income. This is their livelihood, and so I've talked in depth with our guide about this, and she said, no, absolutely, we really, really want, if it's possible and it's safe and it's and it's back up and running, we will definitely go. So this is the UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's cool. The title is the masterpiece of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. It's known for the storytellers, the musicians. This oral history is kept in these various performances, and they wanted a way to preserve this. They actually gave it they created this category for it, which is very cool. We'll get to visit some different mosques. There's lots and lots of fountains all over the city, Baha'i Palace, the tombs. It's a beautiful, amazing place. That's why we're spending a couple of days there. We can go to a hammam, get a good scrubbing. And if there's interest, we could even set up a cooking class. And so this is kind of segues perfectly into something that we like to do because we have such small groups. For our trips, we want to talk to people. What are things that you really want to do? Once we have people registered, once our guests are registered for the trip, even before our pre-trip meetings, we'll talk to people and say, hey, is this a group of people who really want to do cooking classes? Do we want to do, do we want to kind of do extra horseback riding? What is it that you're interested in? Why are you drawn to Morocco? What is exciting about this place to you? And are there some special things that we can incorporate into our tour to make sure that everyone's getting the really cool experiences that they're excited about, and that you feel like you're part of creating this trip, that you're not just, again, boarding a bus, following everyone else, with selfies and the luckily, thank God, the selfie sticks aren't so popular anymore. But that's not what we do. This is really more like a small group of friends traveling together, having really, really amazing, intense experiences, getting to know people, having cool conversations, and creating memories that you're never, ever, ever going to forget. And so, that leads us to our last day, which is day 15. We leave, we head out. Here's some samples of the rugs. Again, the blue city is super cool. And then here's some photographs of the kinds of places. This is it will be either these places or some place very similar. It just depends on the number of travelers that we end up with, that we get over the next couple of months. But you can see they're really beautiful. They're traditional, but you still have, the modern amenities of there's bathrooms, there's everything is very clean. All of our breakfast will be homemade and delivered to us in our rooms, or or have a small dining room that we can share our meal in. But everything is made fresh for us every morning for all of our breakfasts. Here's in Chefchaouen. This is, again, really cool. You've got a beautiful bathroom, the tile work, the columns, it's just so clear that you're walking into this, whole other world. And then here are the luxury tents, which, again, I cannot wait for. I am so excited about this part. You've got the rugs on the floor. Every tent has its own bathroom, like I mentioned. And we can have twin size beds or a queen size bed like this, depending on what people want. But this gives you a bit of a, so you know what to expect when what kinds of tents. These are not, REI tents at all. In Marrakech, this is where we'll be staying. So we'll have beautiful views, and again, clean, simple, and almost all of these are owned by individual families that we're supporting, and we're not going through, these are not large hotels. The pricing right now, $39.50 double occupancy per person, and that does include your airfare. Like I mentioned, if you want a single upgrade, $1,100 additional. It is a little high for this, just because this trip really is designed for double occupancy. The rooms are, that's what's easiest, and so the riads are very small. They don't have a whole lot of rooms, so we actually do encourage the double occupancy. At the end of the trip, we will have an optional the last day. The last day in Marrakech. This was set up before the earthquake in Marrakech. But we will have the mountain climb, where it's a 1 night, 2 days, and it's not an incredibly intensive hike, but it is really, really beautiful. It's 4 or 5 hours of hiking each day, all of our meals, our accommodation, everything. And that's just an additional $150 per person if you want to do that. And if you have more questions about it, feel free to ask. And then, yes, that's our the 15 days review. That's everything for today, and perfect in 30 minutes exactly. So yes, thank you guys both for coming, and have a great rest of your Sunday afternoon. Bye-bye.